Every now and then I recommend programs on the television or the streaming services to you, my friend, and sometimes you watch them, and then sometimes we talk about them. But there is one TV show that we've been watching as a family that is different than all my other recommendations because it's not scripted. It's not some Star Wars fantasy thing. It's just a show about people being thrown in the wilderness and having to figure out how to not die. Have you heard of Alone?
You told me how one guy won one season, and so I know that.
Oh,
but I've never watched it or anything like that.
Okay,
a guy killed a big animal and ate it.
Yes, yeah, yes, and the eating it I think was the key to his success. Let me set this up because I want to pick your brain about it. I've been watching this show with the family. I think it is a great program to watch with kids because it keeps giving us opportunities to think about what would you do. It's easy, sitting in the comfort of your living room, to look at a situation on the TV and be like, well, you should have done this or you should have done that, or you're not thinking clearly. But that's exactly when I want to sit with my kids and think about what you would do in a difficult situation. So Alone is all about humans being dropped in effectively an impossible situation to see how long they can hold out. It's on the History Channel. Each season, 10 contestants get put somewhere way out in the wilderness. They get dropped off in 10 random places within maybe 10 miles of each other. So we're talking crazy remote, though, like Northwest Vancouver Island, Patagonia, Great Slave Lake in the Arctic, some other alpine lake in Canada. And they don't get that much stuff. They have enough clothes to stay warm, and they get to choose from a list of items that's maybe 40 items long, 50 items long, but you can only take 10 of those items. And then what happens is you get dropped out there with all of your camera gear. You have to film your own stuff. I can't imagine what a pain in the butt that is off camera to learn how to film your own reality show and then film it. But They do it. And then what happens is you just see how long you can go without dying. You're not allowed to die because they come and do medical checks, but they don't help you at all. If they give you any help, you're done. If you call for any help, you're done. And everybody gets a sat phone, and you just got this button, and you can push it if things get too bad. And then they come and get you, and you cry, and they do a little interview, and you say how sorry you are to have to leave, and then you're done. You just vanish. And eventually, there's one person left standing, and it's pretty fun. They always sneak in their spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever and have them come stand back behind them and sneak up on them and be like, surprise, you were in the wilderness for 80 days and now here I am. And it's always emotional. It's fun. And we like that part too. I don't want to talk to you about what the reunion would be like if you won Alone. What I want to pick your brain about is just what the heck would you do? You have a magnificent engineer brain. You're pretty dang good at problem solving. One of the many things I like about Alone is that it starts with a problem before you ever even get there. And the problem is, what are you going to bring with? So what I would like to do with this little conversation is I'd like to tell you what the options are for what you can bring. And then I want to hear you workshop what the correct permutation of items would be if you wanted to win.
Whoa. Okay. Well, I'm not a survivalist, or like what do you call the people that are like survival experts, like Bear Grylls? Like, I've been in the woods for 35 minutes and I'm drinking my urine, stuff like that. It's not me.
Yes. No, I know you're not, but I think that's part of the fun.
Speaking of which, a container for...
Speaking of drinking your urine, come on, man.
A container for fluids would be important. I did read Hatchet, and it was very difficult for the boy in Hatchet to like hold fluid. That was a challenge. And so I would think one thing I would want is the ability to hold some type of liquid. A bottle, maybe?
Okay, well, let me read the list to you and see what stands out. You're probably going to want a little sheet of paper.
Okay.
Do you have something to write with there?
Got it.
Because I think you're going to go through several different iterations of this list. Let me start by telling you what you get automatically. So, on Wheel of Fortune.
RST, LNE.
Yes, those are free. They're just gimmies. This is the RSTLNE part. Okay, everybody gets this. Ready?
Do I need to type this or?
You don't need to write this down. I think you can remember this. This is all pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We're going to assume, by the way, that you are being dropped at the Great Slave Lake, which has scrubby pine forest.
That's the name of the place? The Great Slave Lake?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, think straight north of Colorado, straight east of Denali.
Okay.
In Canada. That's got to get us close, like Yellowknife territory up that direction.
Wow.
Yeah, so way up there. You're not going to have a stream that you can fly fish or anything like that. You're going to be operating off of this ancient, deep, glacial, Arctic lake, and it's going to get cold. You're going to go there in September with a little bit of leaves still on the tree, and you're going to watch the leaves come off the trees, and you are going to get snow.
That's terrifying.
And it's going to be cold. By the time, if you make it to Thanksgiving, you'll be at about day 60, and it's going to be 0 and below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be real, real cold. Okay? That all framed up in your mind?
Do you have clothes and coats and stuff like that?
Okay, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, you do. That's on the list.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, here is what is on the automatic list. Here's your RSTLNE.
Yep.
1 pair of high leg hunting boots.
Okay.
1 pair of waterproof Arctic winter boots. 1 t-shirt. 1 fleece or wool shirt. 2 wool sweaters. 6 pairs of wool socks. 2 hats, brimmed wool, fur, Arctic, or baseball. 2 buffs or a neck gaiter. 1 scarf. 4 pair of gloves. 2 pairs, and there are a variety of gloves like insulated, work gloves, mittens, a liner. So then 2 pair of underwear. 1 insulated parka-style jacket. 2 pair of outdoor pants or bibs. 1 pair of fully insulated or waterproof winter pants or bibs.
A pair of insulated pants or bibs?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
1 waterproof uninsulated shell or jacket. 2 pair of thermal underwear. 1 pair of gaiters. You know what gaiters are?
The thing that goes on your neck?
I think that's like a gaiter. I think this is a Gaiter. I think that's stuff that goes around your calves and joins your pants over the top of your boots.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Keep stuff from getting up in there, like poinkies and so forth.
Yep.
1 leather belt, 1 toothbrush, 1 pair of eyeglasses, 1 personal photograph. That's your RSTLNE. Anything on there raise questions for you? How do you feel about what you have so far?
The bibs feel like they're important, and the parka feels like it's very important.
Okay, so you get all that, though.
The wool socks, man, that's huge. I was hunting 2 days ago in South Mississippi. I spent 12 hours in the woods, and my buddy shot a doe, and we skinned it, and we got all the meat off of it.
Cool.
And so that kind of stuff is fresh in my mind. But the first time I went out there, my feet got really cold. It was really cold in South Mississippi that day. And I said, "Hey, man, my feet are crazy cold, dude. What do you do?" And my buddy said, "Oh, well, Homer up the road, who was like 100 years old when I met him, he used to hunt all the time around here. And he said what he would do is he would put a pair of socks on, and then he would put Walmart bags on his feet, and then he'd put socks over that, and then his shoes back on. And that, just kind of kept the heat there in between that first layer of socks, doesn't dissipate out." I was like, that's pretty interesting. I think this is pretty good, but the thing that, out of this RSTLNE list, the thing that I'm most scared of is the wind. And so I don't see anything specifically designed to knock down the wind. The parka-style jacket, maybe, and the insulated pants or bibs, maybe that'll do it. But I think, and maybe the waterproof shell. But the wind is a big deal, and the ability to keep your heat in. And so one of the things that I learned at the ice water shelter on the Appalachian Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains, the night we got there, and it was 40 degrees, and then the temperature kept plunging. And there's I don't know, have you ever done any hiking on the Appalachian Trail or anything like that?
Very limited, just looking for trout. So
yeah,
quarter mile, half mile
Oh,
back
okay.
in. Nothing serious.
Well, we'll do like 40 miles over a course of, a few days kind of thing. And so we ended up at this one place. There was literally ice there. And I got so cold. My feet specifically got so cold that night because I had a sleeping bag that was nowhere close to being warm enough that I was sleeping the way it works in those shelters is just like planks, and you all go in and there's a cage that you can close for bears. And I didn't know the lady I was sleeping next to, but I sure enough at about 2 a.m. stuck my toes under her butt. I was like, my options at this moment in my life are get frostbite and lose my toes or stick my toes under your butt. Ma'am, I'm going to stick my toes under your butt. And I did.
What'd you say? What'd you do? Was she okay? Did she understand? Like,
she pretended
hey,
like
we're
it
all
wasn't
just
happening.
packed in here, like whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Man, weird stuff happens on the trail, dude. There's like, they call it trail magic for the good stuff. And then there's all kinds of names for the bad stuff that happens, like the weird stuff,
Okay. Yeah.
I met a dude on the trail one time. His name was Shatter, and he kept talking about how, they call me Shatter because my mind shattered. I had to break down. So now I'm out here, and I'm like, okay, yeah. You're
Which way you going, Shatter?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going this other way. So I guess I'll see you
Interesting.
much later.
Yeah. By the way, Shatter, you're not allowed to have pistols on the trail, but sometimes I have one.
Okay, real quick, I want to go back to the deer.
Okay.
You said, did you have to quarter it out and haul it by hand, or did you have a little ATV back in there or something?
Yeah, my buddy Wayne's uncle, Fawn, brought it up with the ATV. So Wayne shot it, and Fawn, F-O-N, went and got it, hauled it back up to the house. We strung it up. I was in learning mode, and so I sat there and I just took it all in. Because the last time I skinned a deer, I was 14, and I actually picked up the knife I did it with tonight. I said, my son had it on his shelf. I said, hey, this is what I skinned my deer with. He's like, yeah, I know. And I broke the tip off of it. I was a curious young boy, and I wanted to see this. Yeah, I don't know, this sounds like weird or not, but like you're a 14-year-old boy and you're skinning your first deer. You want to see all the anatomy. And so I wanted to see the brain because brains are interesting to me. And I tried to like get to the brain, and I broke my knife. And so I showed my son, I was like, you know why this knife is broken? He goes, yeah, you told me you bent it the wrong way. I was like, I've been it the wrong way, trying to get to the brain. So I'm not squeamish or scared of that kind of stuff, but
how long will that deer feed your buddy's family?
Quite a while. It won't get him through the winter, but maybe a month. I mean, it was a lot of meat. I mean, he probably got 60 pounds of meat out of that thing. It's pretty good. Yeah, it was a big doe.
Well, it's good that you're not squeamish, because if we put you on a loan, which I'm not actually proposing, but in this hypothetical, you're going to have to kill stuff to eat. There's a couple of food options that we're going to get to here in the list you can pick from, but you got to live off the land, and there's only so many berries you can eat. So we'll get to that in a minute. But it sounds like you're built right for this kind of thing. You're a problem solver. You're not afraid of getting a little bit dirty and eating off menu, and spilling a little blood if you have to preserve your life. So your concern, based on what you saw on that list, your red flag would be wind chill and cold, and wanting to make sure that you could just be out and working and doing stuff without getting frostbite and chilled like you felt that night on the trail.
Absolutely. Yeah. I made a decision that night on the trail that I would always keep what's called an emergency bivy. So it's, think of it like an aluminum foil sleeping bag.
Like BIVI?
No, I think it's BIVY. I don't know how to spell it.
Okay.
But basically, there's a few different ways you can lose heat. There's conduction, convection, and radiation, right? Those are the main heat transfer methods.
Conduction is you're up against something and your heat moves directly from you to it.
It's why a wood table and an aluminum table feel different. The metal table feels colder because more heat is being conducted away from your body.
Okay. What about convection? What does it look like to lose heat to convection?
It's like like heat rising up off of you. I mean,
like when a football player takes off their helmet playing in cold weather?
Yeah.
And they're steaming, that's convection heat lost?
That's my understanding. Yeah, I could be butchering these terms, but yeah, I think it's convection. I took a course in college called heat transfer, and those were and then the last one was radiation. And so radiation is the one that sneaks up on you because, like, for example, you can have frost on the grass in your yard even though it didn't go below freezing. And that's because heat can radiate to the vacuum of space. To, like, you know, it's a complicated thing. But the thing that the bivy does for you is it keeps all the heat, and because it's reflective, it keeps your radiated heat in as well, which is huge. And so if you can keep all that heat in on you, it's really interesting. I don't know why, but I've noticed that if I wear cotton socks, my feet will sometimes get colder than if I'm not wearing socks.
Yep. I've had the same experience.
Another thing I learned on the trail from this really nice redneck dude from North Carolina is he said, "Hey, man, I'm like, hey, dude, I always get cold in my sleeping bag. How do I do this? Oh, I bet you're like bundling up when you get in your sleeping bag, ain't you?"
There you go.
And I was like, yes. He goes, "Shoot, you got to get down to your skivvies, man." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, what I do is I get in my sleeping bag and I take my clothes off. And then I'm in my sleeping bag without my clothes. And then I stay warmer." And I said, that makes no sense to me. But he tried to explain it. And I think what he was saying, it's all about presented surface area to the outside world. Let me just explain it simply this way. What's the difference in gloves and mittens? If you're wearing 5-finger gloves, describe the difference in terms of heat.
Well, I think gloves are usually colder, but I assume that's because I just have more exposure to cold surfaces. Mittens, I can tuck all up in there and keep my fingers together, and I can warm 25% of my pinky finger using 25% of my ring finger, and so on and so forth. I feel like I can cheat a little bit and kind of make my fingers hug.
That's right. You're decreasing your external surface area. And my calculus teacher in high school said the most efficient shape for a house that you could build in order to keep your energy bill low, to like heat a house, for example. What do you think the most efficient shape you could make a house would be?
Well, I suppose I've never thought about that.
It's a sphere because it's the maximum amount of volume for the minimum amount of external surface area.
Boy, would that cause a lot of other inefficiencies, though, that I think would offset your heating gains.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a heat transfer equation. And so I've often thought about this, like, how do you do this? And so what the kind redneck gentleman from North Carolina was explaining to me is like, hey, if I'm down in my skivvies, then my arms can be right next to my body.
Ah.
You know, you can burrito yourself, and like the inside of your arms are touching your sides and your legs, and so you're not losing that heat as it's trying to like slowly seep out of your sweatshirt, for example.
So in a way, if you're wearing all your clothes, it's like you're using your body energy to heat your clothes.
Yes.
But they don't hold it as well, and they don't return the favor, whereas a well-designed sleeping bag does hold it and does return the favor.
Exactly. It's about a trade-off between the amount of heat that's dissipating through the cloth versus the heat capacity of the cloth. Yeah, exactly.
I know that to be true, but I couldn't have even started to speculate as to why.
And that kind redneck gentleman also taught me about Spam bacon. I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man, bacon flavor Spam. Got to get you some." I was like, "You, sir, are a wizard, and during the apocalypse, I would like to know your address so I could come to you, please." This episode of No Dumb Questions is sponsored by Audible, which is exactly the service I would use if I was, stuck out alone in the woods. I would load down my phone with audiobooks. I'd figure out some way to hack together the batteries from the camera systems to power my phone just so I could listen to these audiobooks so I could keep my mind and my mental faculties sharp, because that's what Audible does for me.
What audiobooks would you make sure you took with you?
I'd probably take some faith-based ones for me, and then I'd take some fun ones, like stories I've listened to in the past, something that gives me a touch back to, something I've listened to in the past, so I'm familiar with it. and probably some big thinky ones that were challenging me. I'd probably also take some survival ones.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Hatchet. Probably Hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, here's one. 100 Deadly Skills Survival Edition. I don't know. I just searched for survival. I went to audible.com.
I'm doing the exact same thing. How to Survive by John Hudson. I don't know anything about this, but
Bushcraft 101. Oh, you can sort.
Oh, yeah.
You can just sort by the Plus catalog, and these are all free. Oh, that's interesting.
Brilliant.
Dude.
You could get an audiobook on how to make a Paiute deadfall trap, so you get squirrels and mice.
Endurance is in the Plus catalog. Okay, the Plus catalog. Really? Yes, it is. The Plus catalog is you just get all these titles for free, no matter what. So, if you sign up for Audible, audible.com/NDQ, or text NDQ to 500-500, you get a free month to try it out. You get audiobook for free, but you also get access to the Plus catalog, and Endurance is in there. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Surely they've got podcasts on there as well about survival and all kind of tricks for getting food, getting fish, hunting. Yeah, I think I could dominate at Alone if they would just let me bring Audible. That's all I need, man.
Yeah,
the mind stays busy. You're never going to lose it. It's like you're learning, you're growing the whole time. The hours fly by. You're listening to that while you're doing your chores, loading up wood, chasing around muskrats with a club. I don't know how you get a muskrat. That was just a guess.
Oh, it says right here, this is like you did last time. I like the way they say it. It says, Audible makes chopping wood easy. You can get a free 30-day membership to Audible. It doesn't say that, but you do actually get a...
I'm scrolling. I'm here looking at my little list. I'm like, I think that's not true. I don't...
You do actually get Audible free for 30 days.
Okay, that part's real.
Yeah, that part's real. So audible.com/NDQ or text NDQ to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days. Check out the Plus catalog, see what you like.
Okay, I know that's what we sound like when we're about to wrap it up, but it's been a little while since we've actually asked the third chair to work through an audiobook with us, and I have one that I would like to recommend. Would you be up for doing another one of these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here it is. I want to do Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman.
You are the second person to recommend this audiobook to me.
Really? Who was the other?
A buddy of mine that I went to Peru with. His name's Dave.
Really?
He sent me some quotes. He said, hey, you need to get this audiobook. And let me see what Dave has to say about it.
All right.
Dave sent me a couple of excerpts from Amusing Ourselves to Death. And he says, also, now that you aren't studying for the test I was taking, I'll recommend that book again, Amusing Ourselves to Death. So he's recommended it twice. Yeah, I've got to do this. So I'm in.
I think what you will find is that this is a guy writing, I think, in the 1980s, and you will not believe how prescient this book is. It's, well, I don't want to ruin it, but it's a pre-critique of what things were then and what he anticipated we would become, but it doesn't feel like you're just getting dumped on the whole time. You're in on the conversation. You're invited to think critically as well. It's riveting. It's going to keep your attention, and it's quick.
That's awesome. So we're going to listen to it, and then we're going to go over it together, like as a group?
That's what I'd like to do.
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you. So if you want to join us in listening to the audiobook Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman, and then in discussing it, however many episodes down the road, you can do that by going to audible.com/NDQ or text NDQ to 500-500, and you can get a free Audible trial for 30 days, which includes one free credit plus access to the Plus catalog and all that other stuff we were talking about as well.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Where are we going from here? That you were just telling me the gimme stuff.
Yeah, that's the gimme stuff. We've talked about the red flags, the concerns that you might have. Are you taking the photograph? Because we haven't talked about the mental game at all.
Look at this.
You got to sit out there for. Oh, dang it! I literally was hustling past it in the hopes you wouldn't do that. And did you notice I took no breaths? I just rolled.
Yeah, I would take the photograph.
Yeah, what would it be a photograph of?
My family.
Oh, okay.
Is that a bad idea?
Some people have gone with no on the show. No, that's all I'm going to do is look at that and be sad. I got to be locked in. I got to be thinking about what's right in front of me and not wistfully dreaming about other places. It seems like people psychologically have much more trouble on this show than you would figure.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm an extrovert. I like other people. So just being completely alone, I don't know, this might shock you. I'm cool being alone. Like, I actually really enjoy it. Just walking through the woods and stuff.
I could see that. Sure.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem, like wanting to interact with other humans for a while. Can you imagine how cool it would be to be away from social media for that long? That'd be awesome.
You have that option right now.
Shut up. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm addicted to social media. I said it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Yes, I'm with you. I don't like saying it, so I'll let you say it and then I'll agree.
Yeah.
I think that's good enough for me.
I handed Twitter off to my wife for a month, and that felt really good. It was nice.
Yeah. I changed the name in my YouTube channel so that it wouldn't dominate my thought quite as much, and that's already been really nice.
That's awesome. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. All right. 10 items from the following list. Ready? Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
No duplicate items, by the way.
Okay.
Shelter. 4 items in the shelter category. You may take a 12 by 12 ground tarp. They can have grommets. You can take 10 meters of climbing rope. You can take 80 meters of paracord. You can take 40 meters of cotton cord. Now, you don't have to pick anything from that part of the list. It's just those are the items under the category shelter.
Okay.
So you got the tarp with grommets. You got 10 meters of climbing rope, 80 meters of paracord, 40 meters of cotton cord. And I hope that everybody in the third chair is doing the exercise here, because what you think is interesting, but how can you hear this scenario and not be running it for yourself? Now let's talk about bedding. You can take a multi-seasonal sleeping bag. Here we go. A bivy bag. It is B-I-V-I, like a Gore-Tex sleeping bag cover.
Uh-huh.
You can take a sleeping pad, or you can take a hammock. A hammock. Hadn't really thought about that.
Okay.
Okay, cooking. 1 large pot, no more than 2 quarts, and that includes a lid. So you do get a lid with that. 1 steel frying pan, no more than 2 quarts. 1 flint or ferro rod set with standard-sized striker. 1 enamel bowl for eating, 1 spoon, 1 canteen or water bottle. You could use one of your 10 items on something you take for granted as much as a spoon.
Huh.
It's kind of wild, isn't it? That
Yeah.
they think it rises to that level.
Yeah, it is.
I'll run through the rest of the list, and then I'll be interested to hear if you think it does rise to that level. Hygiene. You can take an 8-ounce tube of toothpaste, but they don't give you one. You can brush your teeth with charcoal if you have to, but toothpaste is a luxury. 1 face flannel. I don't know what that means.
1 flannel?
Face flannel.
Okay.
Yeah. Does it keep your skin from turning to leather? I don't know.
I don't know either.
1 40-millimeter roll of dental floss. 1 small bottle of bio shower soap. 1 shaving razor and 1 blade. 1 towel, 36.
Wait. 1 bottle bio what?
Shower soap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 shaving razor. 1 towel, 30 inches by 60 inches. Here's one I might leave behind. Or 1 comb.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of formulating my list here as well. I'm just going to draw a line through that one. Okay, more. Participants need food to survive. So here are some of your hunting options. 1 300-yard roll of single filament fishing line up to max of 20 pounds weight test, plus 25 assorted barbless hooks no bigger than size 7, no lures. So you can get a fishing kit. Option 2, 1 primitive recurve or longbow, 9 arrows, simple quiver, or arrow attachment.
Okay.
1 small gauge gill net. You ever seen one of those in action?
No. What is a small gauge gill net?
You use cable or post to stretch netting horizontally across a shallow stream, and then fish swim into it. They get their gills stuck, they die, and you can come back 6, 8, 10, 12 hours later, and they'll be fishing there if it's working.
Wow. Okay, that's important. Yeah.
Okay. 1 slingshot with 30 steel ball bearings and 1 replacement band. 1 net bag for foraging. 1 roll of effectively trapping or snare wire. And this one's wild. 3 pounds of 1 solid block of salt.
Yep.
All right, now we're on to food. You can just bring food with you if you want, but you can only bring 2 food items. There's a limit on this, right? Here we go.
Okay.
2 pounds of beef jerky. 2 pounds of dried legumes, lentils for starch and carbs. 2 pounds of biltong for protein. 2 pounds of hardtack military biscuits.
What is biltong?
I was just going to hustle past it and hope you knew.
Okay. Got it.
I have no idea. Dude, I'm Googling that. I got to know.
2 pounds of hardtack?
Biltong. Dude, I don't even know what I'm looking at. It looks like a jerky. It's dried meat. Yeah, it looks like a thick jerky. Okay, there we go.
All right.
Now we know. All right. 2 pounds of chocolate. 2 pounds of pemmican, which is like a trail mix kind of thing. Or trail food, rather. Because 2 pounds of gorp is an option as well. You know what that stands for? Gorp.
Good old raisins and peanuts.
Well done, sir. And then another option is 1 pound of flour. Or you can do a multi-pack that is 1/3 pound rice, 1/3 pound sugar, 1/3 pound salt. That's your food list. And now the big one, tools.
Yes.
This is the part you're going to get excited about. 1 pocket knife. 1 hunting knife, no longer than 10 inches. 1 Leatherman multi-tool or similar. 1 sharpening stone. 1 roll of duct tape or 1 roll of electrical tape. 1 small shovel. 1 small sewing kit.
Whoa,
1 carabiner.
Duct tape / electrical tape.
Yeah, 1 small shovel. 1 small sewing kit.
Yep.
1 carabiner.
Okay.
1 LED flashlight. 1 pair of ice spikes. 1 scotch-eyed auger. 1 adze, ADZE. What is that?
It's a tool used to chop wood and basically. You ever heard of a hand-hewn beam?
Yeah, it's like the kind of thing that you would use to make a hollowed-out canoe.
Yeah.
It's a weapon you draw back. It's a cutting tool you draw back to yourself.
Yes.
Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes.
Never knew that. Never heard of that before. Okay, cool. 1 2-handed draw knife, blade no longer than 5 inches. 1 hatchet. 1 saw. 1 axe. Destin Sandlin, I'm going to drop your Alabama butt in the middle of the Arctic on a bitterly cold lake where there are bears and wolverines and other mean animals. There are mooses there. There are muskox there. Probably coyotes, rabbits, squirrels, probably some birds, grouse. The water's going to have lake trout, whitefish, pike, maybe grayling, Arctic char, things like that. It's going to be very cold. You will be given a chunk of ground where you can get some shelter with some trees and a flat enough space to make some kind of shelter. And you have to endure probably about 100 days if you want to win. What are you bringing with you for those 10 items and why?
You only get 10 of these items. 10?
You get your RST-LNE stuff. That's just your clothes. Yeah. And then you get, from that whole list I just gave you, from the categories shelter, bedding, cooking, hygiene, hunting, and food and tools, you get 10 things from that whole list.
Golly, man. Okay. How hungry am I when I first get there?
I have no idea. I'd like to think that they feed you on the helicopter or the boat or whatever.
Dude, golly. Okay. Holy cow. 10. Because I'm thinking about big ones like axe. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so
well, let's work backwards from what you think you would need to do there.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
If you're going to survive till Christmas, September to Christmas, what activities are you going to have to perform? What are you going to have to accomplish?
The first thing I have to do is build shelter. Like step 1, you got to build shelter. Okay? And so I'm thinking, what can I do? I think the quickest way to get shelter is to gather some small trees, and you would need to make posts somehow, like corner posts, and then weave like I'm step 1, knock the wind off of you. If I could find something like a hillside or something, I would only have to build 3 walls instead of 4, okay. And I could use the heat of the earth. Oh, if you had a shovel, you could go down. Oh, that's interesting. But then you'd have water in there. Okay, this is a fascinating problem, dude. I'm not a survivor.
That's why I wanted to put your brain on it. I'm already having fun.
Okay. I think I get the pot. I got to have the pot because that's how you cook things. That's how I'm going to cook the fish or whatever. The frying pan is interesting because you don't have oil.
Right.
You'd have to save fat or something like that. So I would almost say an enamel bowl for eating. Yeah, you don't need that.
Oh, one more rule. Anything you find, you can use.
Anything you find?
Anything you find, you can use. I mean, if you find a 60-pound survival kit out there full of food, and I don't think you can use a gun, but anything you find, you can use. So just factor that in.
What's the, how far can I walk?
Yeah, I've wondered that as well. I've gotten the impression that there might be a limit, but what I've seen weather-wise is the limit is how far you can get from your shelter, getting up before dawn, and get back no matter how bad the weather gets, because this is mean territory and it's disorienting. There are no trails. Landmarks are confusing. If you wandered too far from the shelter and you couldn't get back, you'd have to request to be, an emergency extract. But I've seen it go down on the show where somebody needed an emergency extract in a cold situation. They couldn't get out and they couldn't get there with the chopper. Dude had to find a way completely on his own with no shelter or help to get through a night below 0.
Wow.
So your limit is how far you can walk because there's nowhere to go. There's no destination to get to.
Okay, so I think I'm starting with shelter. I got to start with shelter. So I'm thinking the 12 by 12 ground tarp with grommets.
Okay.
I'm thinking the paracord.
Okay.
Because with that alone, you can make shelter. You can do a teepee style, like one piece of paracord between 2 trees, 12 by 12 tarp over the top of the paracord, rocks on the corners. You've got a primitive tent right there. So
if you go tarp and cord to make your shelter happen, now that's probably not your long-term shelter, right? That's not going to get you through 15 below, but it's going to get you through the first night.
Right. Right.
So you got 8 things left.
Okay, Lee. The large pot. I think I'm doing.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
Yeah. The bivvy. And the reason I'm getting the bivvy is because of the promise I made to myself after sticking my toes under that lady's butt.
I'm never putting my toes there again.
And you could also use the bivvy as a ground tarp as well because they're waterproof. Golly, the sleeping bag, you kind of have to do that. I mean,
right? Isn't that one just an automatic?
Yeah.
I think you really get to pick 9 items here because what fool is going to the Arctic and being like, I think I can get it warm enough in my little shelter without a sleeping bag. I should be fine. You have to take a sleeping bag, right?
5. Yeah, I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 items already.
It is.
Golly. Okay, so I think the 5 items, I'm going to go with the 3 pounds of salt.
Why?
Because I read the book Salt. And your body needs it. So, like, if I could just eat that salt and then use it on all kinds of food and stuff like that, I think that would be a good thing. And then I need to be able to hunt.
Wait, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You think you're going to need that whole 3 pound block? Because you can get a 1/3 pound. I mean, you can get a 1/3 pound of salt.
Well, you can use it. I mean, when we killed the deer in Mississippi, the first thing we did is we quartered it, and then we put it in a cooler, and we put salt in it. And the reason we did that is that lowered the freezing point, or the melting point, I should say, of the ice that we had in there to preserve the meat longer. And also what my buddy Wayne's uncle kept saying is, oh, yeah, that's just going to draw the blood out and help you preserve it longer. I think that would help you preserve food. I don't know a lot about salt, but I feel like it would be important.
Okay.
I'm going to pause and laugh at the slingshot.
Okay.
I've killed animals with slingshots before. However, what will, no doubt happen is you'll break the rubber tubing on the slingshot and it won't work anymore.
Well, you get a replacement band.
Oh, do you really?
You do get one replacement band.
One replacement band? No. If I'm in it for the long haul, I tell you what I've got to do is I've got to make my bow. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just what I'm thinking. So, but making the arrows would be harder. Do you get arrows with that? You said you do, right?
You do. Yeah. Yeah, you get 9 arrows and you get a quiver.
Dang, dude. I could make an atlatl.
You get a lot of stuff with that bow. Somebody did that. Somebody made an atlatl.
I think I could make an atlatl. The fishing line kit's pretty legit. Like those hooks, right? But the gill net will catch fish while I'm not there.
That is appealing. So can hooks, though.
If you do a trot line.
You can make a trot line, yeah.
Have you ever heard the song Country Boy Can't Survive?
No.
You just lied to me.
No, I didn't. Come on. We got like 2 rules in our whole friendship, and you just suggested I violated one of them. I'll lie to you.
I'd love to spit some beach nut in that dude's eye. You never heard that?
No, I haven't heard it. That's why when you asked me if I'd heard it, I said no.
Okay, A Country Boy Can't Survive by Hank Williams Jr. It's a song about, like, I can do stuff, right? I can skin a buck and I can run a trot line. A country boy can survive. Golly.
Okay, there's the connection. The trot line.
Yeah.
So do you want to just do whatever that song says in the Arctic?
I told a buddy of mine one time, I was like, hey, man, we got lunch on Thursday, and we're going to go swim across the river. And he said, why? I said, to prove that we're men. You've heard that, the song in Alabama. Swim across the river just to prove
I haven't heard
that I'm a man. You've heard that, right?
Who's that by?
Alabama.
What's the song?
Mountain Music?
Really? That's in there?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mountain Music, obviously, but
there's also a really weird line in there.
I'm not from Alabama, so I don't know all the words to all their songs.
Climb a long, tall hickory, bend it over, skinning cats. That's a line in there. Nobody ever knows what that means, but it means like flipping over backwards. All right, so back to the list. Sorry for that.
Okay.
You took me. You took me to a weird place. I'm taking the Leatherman.
You took yourself to a weird place. I thought, like, if you're gonna have pants on this adventure,
yeah, taking the Leatherman.
I almost wrote that one in without asking. Okay,
and I'm taking the axe. Yeah, I'm taking the axe.
Not the hatchet?
Oh, hatchet. Yeah.
Why would you go axe over hatchet?
Yeah. I'll do hatchet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll do hatchet over axe.
We both read the book.
Yes.
Dude, I would almost consider doing hatchet for a book club.
My son's reading it right now.
That would be my condition, is if you got a kid or you got a niece or a nephew, you got to have them go through it too. If we ever do hatchet, those are my terms.
This episode of No Dumb Questions is sponsored by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that will send you fresh ingredients directly to your house, a really cool recipe card that you can cook, and you become a chef. It's like getting chef lessons at your house, and the food is awesome.
And they keep coming up with more ideas. The menu is never static. They've got very talented people who think about all kinds of creative flavor combinations. At least for me and my family, it pushes us just the right amount. It forces me to try new things. It's always good. We always eat everything that is put in front of us. We get to learn things about how to cook together. We can set this up so that new stuff is coming on a regular basis. We can go and check out the menus together and pace things out. But if we're traveling or doing anything like that, we can always suspend it for whatever amount of time we need to as well.
It is awesome. If you want to try this out, you can do so by going to hellofresh.com/NDQ70 and use the promo code NDQ70 at checkout for 70% off plus free shipping. It's awesome. I don't know, Matt, if you've noticed, but the price of food has been going up everywhere.
Is it ever?
Yeah. So the other day, we're like, let's pull up HelloFresh and start finding something on there. We want to start normalizing eating around the table as a family more. So we're starting to do that.
One of the things that we're finding that is very advantageous about HelloFresh is that your normal meal, it's maybe 30 minutes tops, the ones that we order at least. But if that is ever going to hit us during a time in our family schedule where even that is a little too much, now they've got this whole 20-minute recipe stuff. Equally awesome, equally filled with variety, and it's just stuff that you can cook a little bit quicker when you're in those more on-the-run times of the year.
Just like this episode that we're talking about, the survival stuff, HelloFresh is basically the same thing as having a muskox delivered to your house, and you can just eat the whole muskox. I don't think that's true, actually, now that I think about it. I don't think it is true.
But again, I feel like if I could take maybe my Leatherman off of my list and replace it with daily HelloFresh delivery, I think I'd win alone every single time.
I think you would, because your caloric intake would be steady and constant,
right,
and it would be delicious.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have to exert a lot of energy to keep that caloric intake up. I think all the other contestants would be super jealous.
Absolutely. And let's say you needed some garlic for the recipe, right?
Sure.
There'd be garlic in the HelloFresh kit.
Right. I wouldn't have to go kill a garlic fish. I don't know where garlic comes from. To harvest that, it would just be there.
Where does cinnamon come from? I've heard cinnamon is the bark of a tree.
Well, it looks like kind of a wood shaving, right? You can imagine running a planer over that, the way they represent it. It's got the little spirally curly thing. But I don't know where cinnamon comes from.
I don't either. That and olives. I want to see an olive tree. You've been to the Middle East. Have you seen an olive tree?
I have in Greece. Yeah, I went to some really cool olive groves there between like Delphi and Thermopylae one time when I was driving through there. It was unbelievable.
I've only eaten olives that have been, I don't know, they're pickled or salted or whatever. What does an olive taste like straight off the tree? Is it really hard, I bet?
I don't know. I didn't walk up to it and just start grazing. It was somebody else's tree. It didn't seem ethically right. It's not my country. I'm not from Greece.
The point is HelloFresh is awesome. And if you'd like to try it out, go to HelloFresh.com/NDQ70 and use the code NDQ70 at checkout for 70% off plus free shipping.
And seriously, if you're ever on a loan and they make this an option, take it. You will win. I'm straight up not joking at all. Thanks to HelloFresh for supporting the podcast. Thanks to all of you for supporting the sponsors.
Dude, I already have 9 things on my list.
I know. You're going to die.
I got a tarp.
You're going to die.
Paracord.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm getting rid of the tarp. I don't need the tarp.
What's your plan for keeping moisture
bivy
out of your shelter?
Bivy.
How big is this bivy?
Don't worry about how big my bivy is. So I've got, I'm going paracord, I'm going sleeping bag, I'm going with the bivy Gore-Tex. Golly, another option is not get a sleeping bag and then just sleep in the parka and put the bivy on the outside of me. I think that's what I'm doing. I think I'm dropping the sleeping bag.
What?
I think that's what I'm doing.
You're dropping the sleeping bag and the tarp?
Yep.
Are you familiar with cold?
Yeah, I'm going to go the bivy's going to do a lot of heavy lifting, man. The bivy's going to do a lot. It's going to be my tarp. It's going to be my sleeping bag.
Okay, I'm rooting for you, but you can't use the bivy as your tarp and your sleeping bag when it's raining or wet snowing or snow is accumulating on your branchy roof, which doesn't have pitch or anything to keep the moisture out, and you're running a fire in there, and all that snow accumulating on your roof is just going to melt, and that's going to come right into your space.
Yeah, I just made that decision.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm just pushing. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I'm wargaming this.
Okay, I like it. That's what I wanted you to do.
If I'm relying on a tarp on day 80, I didn't build my thatched roof correctly, right?
Thatched roof cottages.
Yeah, thatched roof cottages.
Okay, so we're going cord, the cooking pot, the bivvy, the salt, the Leatherman, and the hatchet.
And a large pot.
Yeah, got that, the cooking pot. So now we're down to 6. You got 4 more things.
Fishing line kit.
You're going fishing line over gill net?
Dang. Am I by water with a bunch of stuff in it?
Oh, yes. That water's going to freeze halfway through your time there.
Then I'm going both. I'm going fishing line and gill net. In the book Hatchet, he dug out a little area. So like on the shoreline, he dug out a little hole that the fish could jump over into.
Okay, real quick. He is what, a 12-year-old boy?
Yeah, he's a 12-year-old boy that there was a airplane that goes down, and he gets stuck in the wilderness somewhere in Canada probably, and he has to survive, and all he has is a hatchet. It's the story about how he does this. Like, he gets really hungry. How does he discover food? What does he do? Carrying liquid is a hard thing. So, yeah, he goes through a bunch of things. Oh, man, I wonder if I can make the net.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
If I have the paracord, okay, I'm not going to do the net.
Because that paracord,
yes,
it's made up of multiple parts woven together.
Well, tell me this.
That apart.
The snare wire?
Yeah.
Is the snare wire thick enough where I can make my own fishing hooks out of it if I have a Leatherman?
Wow, the kind of fish you're going to catch out of the Great Slave Lake. If you twisted it together, wow.
How much wire? How much wire is on the snare wire?
It doesn't say length. It's one roll, which is 3.5 pounds of 20 or 21 gauge snare wires. You could go with the lower gauge, get something a little heavier. Maybe if you twisted something together, like braided it out to make it into a hook. I don't know. These are big fish you're going to have on those hooks. You're not going to have a net. You're not going to have a landing net to get that fish to shore. I mean, you can't have your hook bending and letting a fish go.
I'm getting the snare wire. Yep.
Okay.
I'm getting the snare wire. I think with a snare wire and a Leatherman, I can do a lot. Like a lot. I'm trying to figure out how to make my own bow and arrow. I think I could do that with a paracord.
Well, right now you have a hatchet and a Leatherman.
I got the paracord too. I think the paracord is my new bowstring. Man,
is that going to have too much flex?
What do they do on the show? Do they actually take the bow and arrow, or do they end up like making spears and stabbing stuff?
Yeah, I kind of feel bad that I said the thing about the sleeping bag. I don't want to spoil it. No, spoil's the wrong word. I don't want to ruin this exercise because I'm having a blast watching you workshop it. I don't know what the right answer is to these questions. I got my theories. I got my ideas. I have ways that I would have thought about this before watching alone. And I maybe have some new ideas for how I would tackle this after having watched it. But nah, I'm not going to answer that question just yet. Let's get to 10, and then we'll workshop the list and shoot at it a little bit.
Okay, I'm at 9. I got to figure out the last thing I'm going to get. Oh, do I get batteries for the flashlight?
It's LED, so you're probably getting like a couple of AAAs.
That's all?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, how long is an LED flashlight going to work?
Dang.
One LED flashlight. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about batteries or anything, but you've got all the camera equipment.
Oh, you can use that?
So, I don't know.
Okay, so one time...
Can you?
One time on the Appalachian Trail, I could take anything I wanted, and I took electric matches. Electric matches are 2 wires that go through an Inconel. So 2 copper wires that connected an Inconel wire, and they're dipped in some kind of slurry of a pyrotechnic material. And if you put enough current through there, it'll light off. So what I did is I had a cell phone, and I took electric matches, and I built up a little fire, and then I took my battery out of my cell phone. This was an old Motorola phone. And then I would touch the leads of the electric match to the cell phone battery, and I would start fires that way.
Well, what's your plan to start fires
when you run out of battery?
Drop you off in the wilds of the Arctic here.
Yeah. While we were talking, I went and added the Flint ferro rod set to there.
Oh, you are doing the ferro rod. Okay.
All right. So I got 80 meters of paracord. I've got my bivy bag Gore-Tex because of putting my toes under the woman's butt. I got the large pot with a 2-quart lid. I got the Flint ferro rod set. How many is that? 4? That's 4.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to do the fishing line kit.
Oh, you're taking that off?
Taking that off.
Okay.
I'm going to do 1 roll of trapping or snare wire, 3 pounds of solid block of salt.
Yep.
Leatherman.
Yep.
Hatchet.
Yep.
LED flashlight.
LED flashlight.
How much I got left?
Nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. LED flashlight rounds it out. Okay, now you get to pick all of these items. So it's not like they give you a brand of hatchet.
1, 2, 3. Hold on. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, that's 9. I got 9. I got 1 more.
I got paracord, cooking pot, bivy, salt, Leatherman, hatchet, gill net, snare wire, ferro rod, LED flashlight.
I took the net. I took the net off.
You said you took the fishing line off. You taking the gill net off too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to make that. Man, I'm going to starve the first day. Okay.
Yeah, you might starve longer than the first day.
Okay, I'm going to throw the fishing line back on.
Okay, fishing line. Okay.
With the hooks and stuff.
Okay.
Let me count it. So paracord 1, bivy 2, large pot 3, Flint ferro rod set 4, fishing line kit 5, snare wire 6, salt 7, Leatherman 8, LED flashlight 9, hatchet 10.
Okay.
Take me to the woods. Let's go.
Okay, we're going out to the woods. Here are the things that I'm going to need you to solve for with that line. It says it's going to be a little bit role play game-ish here. You get dropped off. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. The sun is up. It's pleasant enough. The water is relatively calm. There is no campsite. You're dropped off in a place where you can't really set up shop. It's on a bit of a slope. It's rocky. There's scrubby brush all over the place. It's difficult. I mean, there's no trails. So there's nowhere to even really walk. You're just dropped there, and you have all your gear. So total, what is this gear gonna weigh? A lot,
a whole lot.
And you're gonna have a big backpack with all your extra clothes. You're gonna have some Pelican cases for all of your camera recording material stuff. So it's not like you can just drag it all with you. You're gonna have to move eventually to a site. They fed you breakfast at the hotel. You loaded up pretty good with protein, eggs, bacon. You're good for now, but by noon you're gonna start feeling a little bit hungry. So pleasant weather, sunny day, 61 degrees. What do?
Okay, so the first thing I do is probably fish. I tie a trot line first thing. I guess my dad always said, in order to catch a fish, you got to first catch the worm. Or he said, go catch a grasshopper. So the first thing I'd do is go hunt for insects. I'd find some stuff, and then I'd tie up a trot line. I'd throw it out. I'd give myself an hour to do all that.
Okay.
All right. After that, I get the hatchet. I start building shelter as quickly as possible. I don't want to cut all the trees down immediately around me. I want to go out a little ways. I want to find a place with a lot of tree cover for wind purposes. So if I could find something near like a rocky shelter, or like if I could get like a cliff face, that would be ideal.
Okay.
To knock the wind down on one side. I want a place where the the air is stagnant so that I can avoid just straight line winds. So
how far is too far from water?
Ideally I'd say 50 yards from water. Yeah. That's kind of what I'd like to be, if possible. I'd do that, start cutting down trees, and start making shelter, like, immediately.
Okay. What's your plan for fire?
Once I get the overhang, I start stacking wood to dry, because you got to keep the wood dry. Man, that tarp would have been nice to keep my wood dry. But I don't have a tarp, so I get out my bivy sack.
You have a bivvy. You can lay that over.
Maybe I start stacking the Pelican boxes with the camera gear on top of wood. Yeah, I just got to get the axe out or the hatchet out and start chopping trees down and build shelter as quickly as humanly possible.
What's the plan with the snare wire? Why'd you bring it?
I can lash things together with the snare wire. I can make little bitty fish traps with the snare wire. I used to do this thing as a kid. I would make bird traps in my backyard. And the way I did it is I would get panels and out of like gridded metal mesh. And then I would make a little, like when Wile E. Coyote would draw like a tunnel on a wall, he would draw that like mouse hole shape.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes it would work.
So I would make one little hole entrance into that thing with that little shape. And I would bend the wires in so that when the bird goes in, it's no problem. But in order for the bird to go out, it would get poked by the wires. And so I used to build those. I remember one day I went out back and I had 20 blackbirds in my trap. I was like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course I put seed in there so I had something to bait them with. So I wouldn't be that fortunate here, I don't think. Maybe I could gather berries and get them used to going in one location, and then as quickly as possible, I would try to build shelter, but I would try to build passive ways of acquiring food. So trot lines.
So you don't have a gill net, so your trot line, you're weaving a gill net?
Yeah, that's probably day 3 or 4. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I just got to get food to survive. So I'd probably start with the trot line, and then shelter's priority 1. So my immediate problem is get food to get me 2 days into the future. But immediately I'm going to work on shelter. And I'm going to try to make it as nice as possible.
Well, what's it going to look like? What do you mean nice?
I got to stay dry. So I want it to be a little bit elevated from the area around it. So if it rains and there's a gully washer, I might dig I might get a stick or something and like rub the ground and make a little like a runoff moat like thing around my shelter so that water will run around it instead of running in the inside of it.
Okay.
If I can get a little bit of a high ground somewhere, even if it's like a 10 by 10 pad, that's where I'm going to build my shelter. Is this anything at all like what they do in the show?
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you workshop it. Okay, at this point, I'll start talking about what I've seen on the show a little bit. On the first day, you get the people who are like, I'm going to go get some food. And then you get the people who are like, I am going to tear into my shelter right now. I want to make a house in the wilderness. I want a house. And they really get after it. Generally speaking, if you're not pretty intentional about food from early on, those folks seem to lose steam within a week working on their shelter and burning all those calories, thinking they'll get to more food later on. They forage a little bit, but it tends to not work. The best strategy that I see is you bring the tarp, and the tarp is your bridge item to get you a temporary shelter in a temporary location, and you just don't worry about building that shelter for the time being because the weather's nice enough in September.
Really?
Instead, you explore very carefully, and all this stuff takes a lot of time, and all that time is exaggerated by the fact that you have to film it all. If you don't film it, surely you're in breach of contract, or you're just not going to be on the show because there's no good footage. So you got to film it. You got to haul this stuff all over the place. You got to make it interesting. So it's all slow going, and you can't just walk around. This is difficult terrain. It's a mess. It's just wild, right? And so the best strategy seems to be make something temporary, the kind of little A-frame, one stick, bit of paracord, hold it down with rocks so it won't blow away in the wind. That'll keep the rain off me. Good enough for tonight. If a bear comes in, a bear comes in. Tough luck. You do that, and you really scout for the spot that you eventually want to move to, but then you kind of try out the spot you want to move to. How long does it take me to get water? What does the wind do at different times of day? You're never going to have the calories or the energy to try twice on a permanent shelter.
Really?
Yep. Or time. And so if you figure that out and you figure out a way to make food happen, usually a little bit of foraging, some early luck with a couple of big fish out of the lake. You don't just gorge yourself on the fish. You cut them into fillets. You make some fish head stew, and you make a good-sized fish, cover 3-4 days of time. Now you've bought yourself the energy to get that initial foothold survival-wise. But the nice thing about the tarp is it buys you that time. You've got that shelter from the get-go, but also the sleeping bag buys you that time so that you're getting through those initial nights without freezing out before you can really make the shelter happen.
So what you're saying is I'm dead. I died.
No, I'm not saying that. Here's one of the big reasons I'm not saying that. Everybody who goes on the show is some kind of survivalist. I don't know if I've seen any engineers. You've got a really unique problem-solving talent. You're very good at it. Your list, that's not the list I would take, but I don't know how to do some of the things you know how to do. And I got a couple tricks up my sleeve that I think some other tools would lend themselves toward that would benefit me more. My concern for you, I'd put it this way. I think if with this kit, you can get through the first week and you've got a good idea for your location and you're getting calories, I think it could work. I mean, you got to go the ferro rod. Some people don't, but then they burn all kinds of energy on bow drills because they're used to wood around where they live and they're not used to the unforgiving wood of the Arctic. That scrubby stuff doesn't seem to want to ignite the same way. So they burn unbelievable calories just yanking that bow drill back and forth like a Boy Scout for hours on end trying to get a little coal going. So the ferro rod, I think that one's just automatic and a must. That's going to save you a lot of calories and time on fire.
I have a wood-burning stove here, and one winter I made it just a thing. I will not light a fire unless I strike it with a flint, and I did that for an entire year just for fun. Granted, I had like planer shavings from my woodworking shop, so it was really easy. Just poof, just like a nice little fire. But still, it was really fun.
Really fun. And you're right, those planer shavings or using your Leatherman.
The draw knife would have been nice, yeah.
Or your axe to just peel off little bits of almost wood fuzz. I mean, you're going to have no trouble. You're going to have no trouble with a fire, but your shelter is going to have to be able to accommodate a larger volume of heat without burning down and without smoking you out than would be the case.
Did people burn their shelter down on the show?
I'm trying to decide if I want to say, like, even my hesitation gives it away. Yes, there are lots of fires.
Oh, wow.
Because you think about it, that fire is slowly drying out wood chimneys. They're burning small fires and they're like, oh, we'll be fine. But you're totally drying out any of the wood around the chimney area in these primitive shelters. And just inevitably, they get too dry, they get too hot, and just poof. And then once they go, oh, dude, they really go. So that'd be one of my concerns for you is you're going to have to burn really hot in 5-degree weather to overcome no sleeping bag. So this is where your engineering skill will offset it, though. You'll have a better sense than anybody I've seen on the show of how much heat is too much against what kind of material. And I think you'll make a chimney because of your understanding of how heat and oxygen interact.
I would pack it with mud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could get that right. And so as a result, if you could maintain the firewood, the fuel supply, I think you could keep your little cottage very, very cozy, much warmer than others. I also feel like you could figure out how to insulate that up better than the people I've seen on the show. What would you do to make your shelter warm?
I'd use mud. I actually watched a video about this. There was a guy that just went to Alaska, like in the 40s or 50s, and he shot a video about it. Like, he filmed it. And he took an axe. That's all he had. And he went up there and he chopped down trees and he quartered them up. You know, he stacked them up horizontally. He even cut a little door, and then he took mud and he packed all the logs with mud to keep the wind out. I thought that was amazing. And he made a little removable door. Not a hinge, but it like a door he could put in and take it, you know, he could move back and forth. He made that out of woven brush. It's fascinating. But I think I would use mud to insulate the sticks that I would use for any kind of flue. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's smart or not, but that's probably what I would do.
I don't know either, but you'd figure it out. How long do you think you could stay up there?
I hate the cold, dude. I hate it.
You got that southern blood, man.
Give myself like, I'd go at least 4 hours, I think.
Okay, you laugh, but I've seen it.
Really?
Like, oh man, there's one dude who's like, man, they're gonna have to drag me out of there on a stretcher because I'm never leaving. And he says goodbye to his family and all of this, and he goes up. I'm sorry, it's hard to even. He goes up, and the dude gets a rock. We laugh about this so much as a family because all 5 of us were like, what are you doing? What? He takes a bunch of paracord and he ties it around like a softball-sized rock.
Okay.
I don't know why. And then he takes the rock. He's got the rope in one hand. And there's this branch about 20 feet above him. This branch it's no thicker than your wrist, if even that. It's a tiny little frail branch. It's clearly just going to snap. And he's out here trying to throw this rock over this branch. That's like the first thing he tried to do. Like, what? And then he hears a noise in the woods, like a rustling or something. And he's like, yeah, I'm out. Just picks up the satellite phone and taps. And that's it.
What?
Like, it's just gone instantly. And I'm like, well, that guy's just never been in the woods. He's clearly, he's a smart dude and he'd accomplished a lot of things in his life, but he just never been in the woods. And I think that's the first hurdle is you just have to be okay with there being other things out there with you. And that has to be interesting, not horrifying. And I think you've been out enough that it would be interesting and not horrifying to you, even by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Is that fair? You think you could hack that part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I think that's one of it. The psychological game of just fear. And early on, they tried to pass that off as that was what the show's about. It's spooky. You're in the woods by yourself. But once you're out there for a little while, you get used to it. The second thing is loneliness and just where your mind goes when you have no electronics, no books, no storytelling, just you and defeating the elements. That's it. The third part is going to be missing people, the draw of being home. The fourth big hurdle is going to be hunger. Just how do you respond to being incredibly hungry, watching your body waste away? How far are you willing to let that go? And then comfort, getting sleep, staying warm enough. And so I've thought about the question I just asked you a lot. How long do I think I could do this? I think it depends on how much I need to do it. But for me, there seems to be a 30-day breaker that if you make it past that, now you're into the real game. That means you were savvy enough to get set up, generate some reliable food, build something that you could have enough shelter and protection to get into some kind of rhythm and start solving the more minute problems. But you tend to lose about half the contestants in the first week to 2 weeks. And you can just tell within, a day that like your plan, it just wasn't any good. This guy, it's not going to work out for him. It's not going to work out for this lady. They're going about things in the wrong order. And you just,
Still, a week in the woods is very impressive. I've never done a straight week in the woods.
Yes, absolutely.
Extremely
it's very
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And a week in the woods is my longest ever. But I took a lot more than 10 items. And you better believe I wasn't foraging for food. I brought things to eat.
Was it like truck camping?
No, it wasn't truck camping either. Just we used to camp all the time in the mountains of Colorado, a little bit in Wyoming, but more so when I was younger in Colorado. We get up there for a good chunk of time. But I mean, we're bringing 100 items from this list, not 10.
Wow.
So I don't know, man. If I had to guess, knowing you, I think the thing that would get you would be the mind. I think you would just feel like you weren't achieving things, like you weren't getting things done. And I think you would just miss your family so enormously that you would quickly feel like, okay, I got what I needed to get out of this. I'm done. I'm out of here. That would be my guess.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? Like when you finally push the button to come home, why do you think you would push it?
Cold feet. Literally, my feet would be cold.
I mean, what if you shot a moose or something? You could put your feet under its butt.
You know, my grandfather was in the Korean War, and he had jacked up toenails. Like his toenails were jacked all up.
I didn't expect that.
And I asked him, I was like, what's this about? He's like, yeah, my feet got really cold in Korea. And yeah, my feet just get cold. And I think it would literally be that. I mean, 2 days ago, I was in the woods in southern Mississippi with the Walmart bags on my feet.
You did the Walmart bags.
I did, yeah.
I mean, you said that's what the recommendation was. You didn't say whether or not you did it.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah. And so I think that would be my deal. But the what kind of boots do they give me? They give me...
They give you good stuff.
It is good stuff?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay.
6 pair of wool socks.
Would my feet be cold?
I mean, 1 pair winterproof Arctic winter boots. Waterproof Arctic winter boots. I mean, that sounds pretty legit.
That does sound legit.
High leg hunting boots. So you're getting like multiple pair. You could warm one set up by the fire, swap into those, get your toes cozy.
Okay. Maybe my feet won't get cold.
I think your feet might be all right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That'd be the hard thing. Well, what are the medical checkups like?
Oh, they come and see how much weight you lost, make sure you don't have any diseases or anything. They've got a certain threshold with your metrics where if you fall below certain numbers, they're like, we're pulling you. That's it. And you don't get to argue. That's that. That's part of the contract, I'm sure. If they say you're done, you're done. A lot of people who make it past that 30-day breaker, it ends up being a med check that does them in. Even if they're getting food, they're malnourished because they're just getting one kind of food. Like, for example, everybody seems to have trouble getting fat out there. And the lack of fat proves to be a really big problem.
Huh.
Yeah, which is why the fishing is super important because I don't know where else you're going to get meaningful fat in that kind of an environment.
Can you get fat from fish? Fish have fat?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fish head soup is a good source of that, I believe.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's my understanding. I've been wrong about other things. I could be wrong about that too. But the survival thing is just, it's interesting, isn't it? Just how much, obviously we don't have to think about any of this. Everything is so easy in the grand scheme of things. I go on Twitter. Usually it's just fun because I follow accounts that say funny things in their jokes. It's great. Go on YouTube. Some people are mad about stuff, but I watch videos of some guy making fart sounds in Central Park and everybody making giggly faces after he does it. Like, you know what? It's all harmless and fine. Every now and then you come across stuff that makes you mad and want to complain about the world, or you have a bad experience at a restaurant and you're fussy. But the idea of actually having to survive and not having any brain space for all of the little inconveniences and irritations and political bickering and everything else, the idea of having all of my mind used on preserving my life and the life of my family against the cruel elements with very few tools to make that work, that's pretty humbling to even imagine trying out. And I think I'm a fairly clever guy, but I don't think I could defeat nature in a harsh northern climate and stave it off for very long to protect my family. And that's sobering.
I've been hungry, but I have never known true hunger. The fact of the matter is the American Midwest produces so much grain for me that I've never been hungry.
Thank you, American Midwest.
I'm listening to a book right now about how the colonization of America started and how initially they started farming up around the Northeast and the Virginia area. But then after they expanded to the West and the agricultural capabilities of that land was incredible. There's a lot to be said for manifest destiny and all that, and there's a lot of negativity there historically. The Native Americans would disagree that it was great. However, once the expansion happened to the west and food started being able to be produced on those farms at untold of levels, then that created a de-agriculturalization of the eastern seaboard area as people didn't have to farm there anymore. And that's when, all these businesses started and people got to think of more less survivalist type things. And they're like, oh, I think I'll open an insurance company.
Right.
I think agriculture is huge. Food supply and food assurance is the biggest thing. You put me out in the middle of the woods, I'm going to die pretty dang quickly. I just am,
Yes.
Unless you had the ability to go against some big game. I mean, we were hunting with rifles and crossbows in Mississippi. We were waiting all day for a deer to come out to where we were, where we had planted food for the deer to come eat. Like, just the amount of effort that goes into that. Like, I want a deer here, therefore, corn feeders. We're going to train this deer to come to this area, and then we're going to quit feeding him one day, and he's going to come. There's not going to be any corn, and I'm going to be sitting here, and I'm going to shoot him, and I'm going to feel like I did some hunting. That's not hunting.
Oh, come on, that counts.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
You outfoxed and outmaneuvered a big animal that can feed somebody for a long time. It counts. Your point stands, but, I mean, what is hunting? You're outfoxing, you're outmaneuvering an animal so that you can kill it and eat it. You achieved that. But you're right, it'd be a lot tougher without any of those advanced tools.
Yeah. There's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt that I'm having trouble finding right now. It says something along the lines of, a man who doesn't have a desire to outwit or outsmart an animal is a man that I have no time for, or something like that.
Oh, it's hang out with Teddy Roosevelt.
It's a fantastic quote. Anyway, so I think the ability to acquire food would be very, very difficult. Interesting to explore. So finding good shelter is important, and then getting your food supply stable. And they pretty much only survive on meat.
Yeah, they forage mushrooms. They eat like dandelions and some kind of wild onion. When you're Vancouver Island near the coast, they're eating limpets, little shellfish things. I don't know, snail almost looking things. They'll eat like cucumber looking slugs out of the forest. They get desperate, man. They do deadfall traps to try to get mice and squirrels. But my favorite season is the one where they go to Mongolia, and Mongolia is basically Lander, Wyoming. Mongolia and Wyoming are twin places. The animals look the same. They behave the same. The climate is similar. The growing season is similar. And they put them all on a trout fishing stream. And they're like, good luck. I'm like, oh, man, I would have lost so bad on all these other seasons, but I think I could have hung in for quite a while. Watching those people fly fish, I mean...
Make you angry?
They're doing literally everything better than me, other than fly fishing. And this just shows how powerful the ego and pride is. I forget that they're better at everything else, and all I do is sit there quietly judge them in my mind for how poor their fly fishing technique is while they're starving in Mongolia.
Golly. Mongolia. Seems like you would find a yak and then, like, drink milk straight from his teat.
Straight from his teat.
Its teat.
Delicious. I want male yak milk. I'm a little troubled.
I do not. Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, thank you for indulging me on this. I've been really looking forward to it. We did the whole thing. We went through it with the kids. We're trying to teach them lessons about life and problem solving and strategy. And what are you going to do if you're in a difficult spot? What's your order of operations? How do you make good decisions? How do you recover from a bad decision? All of these kind of things. I just thought I would love to get a look at what your brain does with this math equation that all these contestants are running and that people who watch the show run. And it was really fun.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for, letting me experience this. I think it's cool that I've never watched the show. I kind of want to watch the show now.
Well, I really wanted to press you into this episode before you did, because I've been badgering you to watch it. So there was some urgency here.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I liked your ideas. Okay, last question. One more chance. Anything you would change on that list?
Portable bidet.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. That's worth one of the 10 items. I'll leave the fire starter behind and take the bidet.